Alright, so the purpose of this video is to show you how to get the LEAP 2025 scores of students that you need to determine who will take the reading fluency, the ANet reading fluency assessment. And remember, that is for grades 4 through 10. So let me just remind you regarding the ANet reading fluency implementation plan. So remember, it's for grades right here where it says ELA, required grades 4 through 10 for identified students. And then when you go down here, you'll see grades 4 through 8, students who scored less than mastery. So when you're looking at JCampus for which students will be taking the ANet reading fluency, you're going to be looking for students for grades 4 through 8 that have a score of basic, approaching basic, or unsat on the previous spring ELA LEAP test. For grades 9 and 10, you're going to be looking for students who scored approaching basic or unsat, so less than basic, approaching basic or unsat on the previous spring ELA LEAP test. Now, remember, if a student did not take the LEAP test, the ELA LEAP test, then the first thing you're going to do is look to see if the student has a ANet interim 3 score from last year. And you can be looking at the ANet ELA interim 3. How did the student do on interim 3 in ANet? If the student scored 30% or less on that ELA interim 3, then the student will take the reading fluency. If both LEAP and ANet data are absent, then the student will take the ANet reading fluency. If you have an incoming 5th or 9th grader that took the state mandated placement test between August of this year and beginning of October 2022, because remember, the fluency assessment ends on September 30th. But if you do have a 5th grade student or a 9th grade student, incoming 5th grade or 9th grade student that took the state mandated placement test, then you can use those results to substitute for the previous year's LEAP scores. Okay, so let's go back to JCampus. So let's see how we're going to get these LEAP scores. So in JCampus, when you log into JCampus, now this is what I see. And so to get to the LEAP scores, you're going to go to the left side of this panel, of this page. You can go to the left side, and where you see grades, go to grades right here. So I'm clicking on grades, and then you're going to get this. You then want to go to list right here. List. Click on that plus sign, and it's going to expand the list, and you get this now. So I'm going to scroll down like this, and it'll populate as you scroll down. And what you want to do is you want to find the function that says Student Accountability Tracker right here. So I'm hovering over it, and notice it says displays a list of students and their EOC, ACT, Plan, Explore, CLEP, and WorkKey scores. Now, you don't see the word LEAP, but LEAP is in there. I would imagine at some point the program manager for JCampus would put the word LEAP as well. All right, so LEAP is in here, even though you don't see the word LEAP. It is in there. Okay, so then you want to click on this. So let's go ahead and click on Student Accountability Tracker. And so when I click on it, it's going to launch. All right, and this is what you're going to see. All right, now up here it'll default to the current school year, 22-23, and your district should appear. And if you only have one school, I'm not sure how it looks on your end, but I have all schools. I'm not sure what you see, so I'm going to delete all of this from the previous. Let me just go here and just uncheck all these. Okay, so I deleted all of this. from my previous search. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and select a school, and I'm going to go ahead and select a middle school. So let's see, I'm going to go to scroll down. Let me select a school that has elementary grades as well as middle grades. So let's see, I'm going to go to, oops, sorry. All right, so I found a school that has some elementary and middle grades, and right here under grade, you want to choose the grades that you want to pull up. Some schools may want to pull up just one grade level at a time. It is up to you. I'm just going to go ahead and pull up all the grade levels for that school that have to do the ANet reading fluency. So remember, ANet reading fluency is for grades 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, so that school that I chose have those grade levels that they need to look into. So I'm going to click OK. So notice all the grade levels appear here. Leave gender, ethnic, cohort, pathway, all that blank. Now, let's look at the test date. So you're looking at the previous year's score. That's what you're interested in. So remember, LEAP was taken in the month of, for elementary middle, in the month of March. And so we're going to choose March 1st. Let's just go ahead and choose March 1st, even though it did not start on March 1st, 2022. And then we're going to go all the way, even though we didn't test in June, just put June 5th. All right, and you're going to do the same thing. High school, you can do the same thing. You're going to choose those dates. Oops, sorry, for high school, excuse me. For high school, remember, high school, you do have some students that tested in the summer. So for that, I would choose, let's say, July 20th, something like that. So for high school, when we look at the high school, we'll do a different date here. But for elementary and middle, just put those days. Be consistent. March 1st, 2022, June 5th, 2022. So what's going to happen is that it's going to capture, the report's going to capture only those tests that we're taking during this time period. All right. And then since this is a elementary school and middle school that does not teach English 1, I'm just going to keep it as LEAP grade 3 through 8. I'm not going to do LEAP 2025 or EOC because those are high school, and that school does not have an English 1 course. So for elementary middle, just do LEAP grade 3 through 8. And then you need to choose whether you want the highest test score or the most recent test score. All right, so since we're only looking at the test that was taken during this time period, when you look at the report, you're going to have the initial, you're going to have the test date listed, and then you're going to see an initial score. Next, you're going to see another score, whether it's the highest test score or the most recent. Since there's only one test there, these two should be the same because you're only looking at only this constricted time period. So there's only one test that was taken that the student took during that time period, and those two should be the same. So it doesn't matter which one you use for high school, since a student could have taken the test in the spring and also retook it in the summer. For high school, you probably want to, you really should use the one that says use the highest test score. All right, so I'm going to just go ahead and use highest test score. You could just go ahead and do that. All right, now we're going to go ahead and click OK. All right, so right here, you can click OK. And it's going to take a little while to pull up the report. All right, so once the report pulls up, this is what you're going to see. So you can see a lot of information, a lot of which you do not need. So we're going to talk about how to get rid of all of this information that you don't need. But what I want you to notice is on the right-hand side, you're going to see a scroll at the bottom. Right here, there's a scroll at the bottom on the right-hand side. So move that scroll like this. So I'm moving it over. And notice you're going to see the LEAP 2025 grade 3 through 8 test date. So it says April 1st, 2022. You will then see the initial LEAP scores for that student. Okay, so you have ELA, math, science, and so on. Now remember, math, science, you're only interested in ELA. So math, science, and social studies, we're going to go ahead and delete so we don't have all that information. So notice the initial. Then over here, you're going to have the highest. So the highest LEAP, but remember, you're only looking at a very limited window in which only one test was taken. So that ELA highest and that ELA initial should be the same, all right? Because the student only took one test in that time period, one LEAP test. All right, and then you get all this other stuff that is not needed. And in fact, there's nothing there. Word keys, I'm not sure why the word none's here, and it's not located anywhere else here either. Okay, so, all right, so all of this we're going to delete, all right? Okay, now, on this side, you get lots of information that is not needed. And so we're going to talk about how to get rid of all of this. Okay, so let's talk about how to get rid of some of this information that's not needed so it is more manageable for you to deal with. On this bar right here, or on this level, this row right here, you're going to see school, student name. Now remember, SASID is the LACID, that's that state ID. The SIDNO, the student's identification number, that's the local ID. That's the one that you're going to use on the Google form. Okay, so you're going to need that. The grade level, so you need to know the grade level for that student. Then you have the gender, which we don't need, the ethnic, which we don't need, the email address you don't need, the homeroom you don't need, cohort you don't need, and so on. Now for 504 and SPED, you may want to keep it. It's up to you, just to know whether that student is a 504 student with accommodations or a special ed student. Now remember, a SPED student can also be gifted, and or the student could be a student with a disability. So we're going to talk about how to get rid of all this. All right, so to get rid of all this, it does not matter. You see, when you hover over one of these labels right here, let me go to student email. When you hover over one of those labels, and you, I'm just right-clicking. I wonder if let me just see something. All right, so if you actually click on that down arrow, what you want to do is go to columns, and then you see all those check marks. You want to get rid of some of those check marks that you don't need. All right, so let's talk about this. So oops, let me go back. All right, so right here, you know the school. So let's get rid of that. You don't need that column. All right, now notice as I get rid of the check mark, you notice that all of this moved to the left, right? Okay, so let's do this. You're going to need the student name. All right, so remember, you are going to need the student name, but I am going to remove it so that way I don't have to keep using the blur on this. So I'm going to remove the student name, but you're going to need it. You don't need the state ID, so remove the state ID. You are going to need the local ID, so keep that. So you're going to keep that, but I'm going to remove it so I don't have to keep blurring that column. All right. You're going to need the grade level, so I'm going to go ahead and keep it. You don't need the gender, so delete that. You don't need ethnic. You don't need student email. You don't need homeroom. You don't need cohort year, FAFSA. You may want to keep 504 and SPED, but it's up to you. Cumulative GPA you don't need, graduation pathway you don't need, pass requirements you don't need, diploma you don't need. Notice as I'm deleting all this, everything is moving to the left. Number of dual enrollments you don't need, honors courses, career options, I, B, C you don't need. And notice the high school information is not checked. But if you scroll down, notice I'm scrolling down, this is some other stuff that's checked off. All right, so the LEAP grade 3 through 8 test date, just go ahead and keep it. The initial LEAP score, go ahead and keep. You want the ELA, but you don't want the math. You don't need the math. You're just, remember, determining whether a student's going to take the reading fluency is based on the ELA score. So take the math off, take the science off, take the social studies off. Okay, let's go to highest LEAP grades 3 through 8. You need the ELA, take the math off, the science off, the social studies off, and take everything off down here. Anything dealing with ACT word keys. Take all of that off. Scroll down, you have some other stuff you need to take off. CLEP scores, AP, community service hours, and total hours. Okay? So I've removed everything I wanted, but remember, even though I removed student name and local ID, you need to have that in there. All right, so you need to keep the student name and local ID in there. All right, so then I'm just going to click on anywhere in that white space over here, and so that bar went away. And what you want to do now is I want you to notice, let's see, so, all right, so I want you to notice that on this side you're going to see the student's name and the local ID, and notice I kept the grade. I kept 504 in SPED information. Notice that this student was a SPED student. It could be a student with disabilities. It could be a gifted student. And these are their scores, their LEAP scores. I want you to notice, remember there was only, that the student in that time period only took one test. So you'll notice that the initial and the highest are all the same, right? All right, for high school, there could be some students where the initial and the highest are different. All right, but that's going to be for high school. All right, so what you want to do now is you want to take all this information and you want to put it in a spreadsheet. So to put all that in the spreadsheet, you're going to go to print right here, click on print, and when you click on print, it is going to, it's supposed to download it on the left-hand side. Let's do it again. Let me click on print. Okay, there we go. All right, actually, you got to do this first. All right, so I had to click on print twice. Usually, if you just click on it once, this is going to show up. All right, so what you want to do, you don't want to leave it as a PDF, right? Because you want to filter. So do it as a spreadsheet. So click on XLS, spreadsheet, okay? And then keep it on landscape and keep it on letter, and then let's go ahead and print. So click on print now. And then it downloads here. You see it downloading here. I'm going to open it up, and when you open it up, okay, it's going to bring it down here. You can't see it, but I'm going to go ahead and open it. So, oops. Okay, it should open it. It's opening it up on another window. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it over, and then this is what you see. Okay. All right. Now remember, when you open it, you're going to see the student's name and the local ID as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and enable editing right here, and this is what you see. Okay. All right. So to filter, you see where you see that little triangle right here, that little triangle. You're going to click on that, and when I click on that, see it, you now see a plus sign. When you click on that little triangle, you're now shading in all of the data that's on that spreadsheet. You're then going to go to data right here, data, click on that, and then you're going to click on the word filter. Now before I do that, when you click on the word filter, you're going to see some little drop downs next to each of those columns right here, or at the end of each of those columns, that green where you see A, B, C, D, E, and so on. All right, so what? So I'm going to click on filter, and now you see those columns. I mean the filters. See this? Okay, so what you want to filter is the LEAP score. Okay, that's what you want to filter. Now remember, it does not matter whether you filter for elementary and middle. It does not matter whether you filter the initial. Remember, this one was the initial and this was the highest because they're all the same. All right, the initial highest is the same. I'm just going to do the highest. All right, so you're going to see this little drop down. Click on that, and you have all the LEAP scores here. You want to sort A through Z. So sorting A through Z will take the numbers and go from smallest to largest, because you want the students that have to take the LEAP ANet reading fluency at the top. All right, so sort A through Z. So when I click on A through Z, notice this is what you see. Okay, now all of this right here that I'm highlighting right here, there are no LEAP scores, right? There are no LEAP scores. So then you have to go and determine did those students that I have highlighted, and there is a total of, see right here? So if you want to find out how many there are, right over here, and you can't see it, but right over here is the count number. So there's 14 students. Let me just kind of do this for a moment. All right, so right here, see right here, you see 14. All right, so all I did was I just, under that column F, I just went from right below ELA to right above unsat, and there are 14 students without a LEAP score from last year. So notice different grade levels. Some are 5th grade, 6th grade, and so on, right? So you have to determine if those students took the ANet Interim 3 last year, and then they scored 30% or less, they have to take the reading fluency. If they don't have a ANet score as well, obviously they don't have a LEAP score, then they have to take the reading fluency. If it's an incoming 5th grade, see like this one right here is a 5th grade student. If that 5th grade student took the state placement test, a mandated state placement test, you can use that to determine if the student needs to take the reading fluency. Okay? All right, so let me go through this again. So right here in that column, that's what we're going to need. So these students did not take or do not have a score, so you got to look into this. And then these students here that says approaching basic and unsat, you're going to have to assess, and then keep scrolling down. And then we see the masteries right here. So we're going to stop here. And so the basic students for elementary and middle have to assess grades 4 through 8. Okay, so for this school that I just highlighted right here, all those highlighted scores, there are 46 students at that school that have to potentially, that have to take the ANet reading fluency. And I use the word potentially because some of these students may have an interim 3 ANet score from last year that's over 30%, and they would not need to do the reading fluency. Okay, so that is how you're going to determine which students will take the ANet reading fluency, and that is how you're going to get their LEAP scores. Okay, so if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call or email me at any time. All right, so that is the end of this tutorial.